Hello, and welcome back to Just Life, the podcast where we talk about, you guessed it, life. Today, I am joined with Mrs. United USA 2024, Jessica Marie Hopper. So, Jessica, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing
Awesome.
awesome.
She's got all her green on for St. Patrick's Day. This was like the reason why I wanted to have you on March because I knew it'd be perfect. And I actually have my green on. You got
Right?
your nails. Mine, I'm doing them tonight. So,
Ooh, it did like
oh,
a whole
that is
thing.
really cool. This is like
I had no
I'm so new
idea.
to this app, so I don't know. I guess you made it do fireworks. That's amazing. But
That's
it's
perfect, right?
perfect. But no, I'm just so excited to have you on because I thought you'd be a great guest and you just have an amazing story. So I'm just gonna go ahead and introduce you, and then whatever I miss, you can fill in the blanks. So, Jessica Marie Hopper is an Irish American with a degree in psychology and a focus in interpersonal relations, along with a double minor in dance performance and family science. On top of running her successful business and personal brand, Miss Jessica Marie, she's also launched her mission of Safe Homes, which she founded 5 years ago. So, you are from my hometown, Remington, so that's kind of special too. You have not only competed in several pageants, you have won several titles. You've been at New York Fashion Week, you've been on billboards from Florida to New York Times Square. So you just have done so much. You've lived like 1,000 different lives. And yeah, what did I miss? What else would you like to add?
Oh my goodness. Made me sound awesome. I guess like some of the newest updates since, well, this past year, we'll put it that way. I started working for CEN Network as an on-screen talent. So I've been a roaming reporter for them, but we're also looking at other opportunities, one being featuring in one of their TV series. So we just locked that part in. Now we're just waiting for the final stuff to happen so we can start filming. So I'm pretty excited for that because I've never done anything like that, but it sounds like a really fun character. Um, for I'll give you a hint. It's like for dental school.
Ooh,
Yeah, so I'm really excited. It's a different character than my natural personality, so I think it's really gonna challenge
ooh.
me, but in a good
Yeah,
way.
I
Yeah.
forgot to mention that. Yeah, that is so cool.
Oh no, you're
And I
fine.
mean, you work with like big names like Charles Barkley, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Charles, John, Sally, and then I can't name some other ones yet because wait until this stuff comes
So
out. But those ones I can
So
name.
stay
Yeah.
tuned. Right.
Yes.
So now this is part of the podcast where we do a life update. It's kind of just debriefing, talking about what you've been up to. So I'll go ahead and start and I'll throw it to you to learn about what you've been up to.
Right.
So, right, for me,
Yeah.
life has been good. I just got back from vacation. I went to Panama City with my family and I actually came home last night. We had a layover in Atlanta because I flew into South Bend and my 40-minute layover turned into 3 hours. So we didn't get home until like 2 a.m. And then we wake up this morning and I get on my phone, like, right when you wake up, and I saw that our apartment had a fire. So it turns out it was the building next to our building, but it caught on fire. So it's just been a crazy 24 hours. But the last week has been so nice, so relaxing, just a much needed getaway from work. I should be at work right now, but I took off today just to kind of get back in the groove, do grocery shopping, unpack, all that. And honestly, that is so important. Like, you need that extra day from vacation just to like rest. But
You
it's
really
so
do.
important. Like, yeah, you go on vacation and everything, but you need a vacation from your vacation.
Yes.
All right.
I'm a big proponent of that.
All right, Jessica. Well, let's hear about you. I know you are a busy gal. What have you been up to lately?
Well, pretty much just doing a lot of the prepping behind the scenes work of the TV production side of it. So we've been just having a lot of meetings. There's a lot of work that goes into this kind of stuff that I hadn't like didn't realize. All the way back from like talking like producers, the director side. We have like they have these things called slide decks. I'm just learning a lot through this process of apparently as actors you don't just show up to set and get ready to go in that sense. So I'm learning actually more on the business side because thankfully I've built a relationship with the owner of the network. And so he has really given me more insight into how all these functions work together, which I really, really appreciate. So that's kind of been the main thing. Other aspects is I'm always busy pageant coaching. That's on the daily. Um, and there's no complaints about that because that's part of my brand. I love mentoring young women and getting other girls involved in pageantry, whether it's for a crown or just learning certain life skills that they can take from pageantry and then use in the real world, which is really what it's about. But yeah, I would say those are the main updates here.
Awesome, awesome. And pageantry, I know that's going to be probably one of the main topics we talk about today because I did a pageant back in 2020. It was just a small one, Miss Jasper County. But yeah, it was so fun and such a great experience. And, I think pageantry kind of gets like a negative image sometimes. People are like, oh, beauty pageants, it's all about looks and whatever. But it's really not. It's about confidence, it's about building yourself into like the best version of yourself. So let's go like
hmm
all the way back to the beginning for you. When did you decide that you wanted to do pageants and what was your first pageant?
So my very first pageant, like you, was the Miss Jasper County Fair Queen pageant. Um, Bluntly, I did actually 2 years. The first year, I did not win at all. I didn't place do anything. The second time, I waited a few years and then I came back while I was in college. I ended up placing first runner up so I could get on the Fair Queen court. And I really enjoyed that experience. At that time, I was approached by someone, while at our fairgrounds, by the way, by someone in the Miss America organization. All of us queens were in the community building, which you'll know. And I think we just got done with the cake auction. And this lady was judging there, and she approached me and my parents separately and said, I think she has a nice look. Um, would you consider ever competing in collegiate, like the mainstream pageantry? At that time, I said no because my focus was my education. I also didn't understand that world completely. And I didn't think I would necessarily fit that world because Jasper County is one thing, the big stage is a whole nother. And due to my experiences growing up and just the situations I was in, I didn't think that pageantry was really the right space for me at the time. However, this lady, I don't remember her name either. That is always what I say. I'm like, I don't know who she was. She must have been an angel or something. She consistently texted me each year asking if I would compete. And finally, when I graduated, she texted me and said, you no longer have an excuse. Here's a pageant. Go compete. So I did. I ended up going to nationals and like being voted Miss Congeniality, which is
That's huge.
the nice
Yeah.
girl. Yeah, it is huge. It's the nice girl. I loved it. Walked off this stage going, well, that was wonderful. I got a once in a lifetime chance. I represented Indiana at a Grand Slam pageant on the national stage. That's like a lot of girls' dreams.
Yeah.
So I was good to go. But then I walked off stage, and those directors said, we really want you to continue in pageantry. I think you need to keep this going. So that's really how it started um, in my pageant
Wow,
journey.
that is so cool. I can kind of relate to the aspect of like, I didn't know it was for me. I showed up to it was like the first ever meeting and they're like, hey, we really are low on numbers. Like, do you just want to come try it out and like see if you like it? So like right when I show up, I am coming from soccer practice. I just threw on some romper. My hair is a mess and I get there 20 minutes late. I walk in and thank God these are like the nicest girls ever. I'm still friends with them to this day. But I was a mess. And then I get there, they snap our pictures for the newspaper. I didn't even know what it was for. I thought it was for like, I don't know, just like pictures. And they're like, well, you're in. And I'm like, oh, I guess it's too late to quit now. So that was kind of like my intro into it. But, it was so fun. It was kind of weird because it was during the COVID era. So I had to do like all of my
Yeah.
stuff over Zoom. And I hate Zoom. I'm super open about that. Like, I hate I mean, it's great. It's a great tool, but like I'm in person kind of person. Like I want to talk people face to face. It's great for stuff like this, but it's really
Yeah.
hard like talking to people and being like your authentic self over Zoom, which I've obviously done better now. But yeah, it was a weird experience, but it was such a great experience. I loved it. Like I've learned so much about myself. And I mean, I think pageantry just has so many different layers.
Oh, it does. So I have to ask, during your year, did you guys get to actually compete on stage since it was 2020? Because I know all across it was like really weird. So you did get to
I
compete
I did
on
get to
stage.
compete. So our local pageant, most of the time it's held in the commercial fairground building, but because of COVID, they
Yeah.
wanted to move it outside. And honestly, this was like the greatest thing that could have happened. We had it at Hampshire Gardens in Jasper County, which is absolutely gorgeous.
Okay.
It's like it felt like I was in a fairy tale. Like it was
So you probably got a way better one than we did.
like the pictures are incredible. Like I wish I did it here every year because it was just amazing. Like I said, I felt like a princess, like walking through the woods. Like we lived it up. But I see at the community building, and that was really cool too. So for state, it was really odd because they had the 2020 girls and the 2021 girls there. So it was like 100 and like 50 girls competing rather than 92. So it was intense. It was pretty crazy.
That's a
Yeah, it was a
lot.
lot.
That is a lot. I know that year really threw off everything for not just, I mean, actually for us as individuals and our careers and everything else, but in the pageant world, it was huge. I did not know that they had to do that for the state. I didn't realize that all the Jasper County, or I'm sorry, all the county queens, when they went to state, that also the next year's
Yeah.
queens were
So
going to. That's a
you were
lot.
competing against your own county. Like it was really odd.
I don't envy you.
It was odd for sure, but like I said, like it was such a good experience. Um I'm happy it happened that way because like 2020 there was some pros, you know, Hampshire Gardens. I didn't have a fair, which
Yes,
that kind of like it sucked. Um yeah,
it
cuz they
does.
didn't tell us until I kid you not 2 minutes before the crowning that the fair was canceled.
So you couldn't get to go to all the fun events like the dog show. Oh, I'm so
It's okay.
sorry.
I still got to go to like some of the animal shows and give out ribbons, but there was like no rides. There were no like maybe two vendors at the fair. It was just so odd. But like I said, there was pros and cons, and the pros I believe were better for me. So, well, let's get back to you. Enough about 2020.
Oh, well, I was.
So you competed in your first national pageant. Was that when you
Mhm.
got like it kind of opened your eyes like, okay, this is for me, or was it another time?
So I've always liked being on stage, like with theater, dance, things like that. So I don't know, like on the stage aspect, yeah, I always felt like it was for me. Pageantry, I think when it really, really clicked for me was when I entered the Miss America system. So after I came out from my first national pageant, I went around and I was like, Miss Congeniality pretty much and then Indiana for Miss Supranational. And I finished out that reign, but those directors said, we really do think you belong in the Miss America organization because of your platform and your message. At the time, I was a social worker and I agreed. So I did a lot of research because at that time I was still new. And we have this thing called a pageant bubble. And unless you're in this bubble, you really don't know the ins and out of these pageants. So I was outside the bubble trying to get in the bubble. And so I ended up entering the Miss America system, and I really did feel like it fit me due to my platform. Unfortunately, I was old for the organization at the time. I believe the age limit was 25, and I entered pageantry at 24. So by the time my year came, they actually made the rule change the year I competed to up it from 24 to 25. So I had 30 days to win a local title for Miss America. For that was going to be all. So thankfully, I won one and was able to experience state, um, which was also a unique experience. When I was at state competing, they made the Miss America made the announcement that they were eliminating the swimsuit competition from Miss America. For me, that was hard because I had that was my best category was swimsuit modeling. And I'd even won it at when I won my crown. And I knew it was now not going to be a factor while I was at state. But it was a great experience. I ended up getting the newcomer award at Miss Indiana, which is the highest scoring person who's new to the organization. And so I ended out on a good note. I had 30 days in the organization, which doesn't seem like long, but I really, really, really enjoyed it. And that propelled me for all the other little things that I was doing. So I would say that's when it.
So you talk about the bubble, like you were outside the bubble and you worked your way in. I know a lot of girls, like you said, it's their dream to compete in pageants. How do you get into the bubble?
By competing, simply by competing. And trying different organizations because each pageant organization is looking for something different. Um, the scoring is different based off of the organization, whereas interview could be weighted at 50%, in another organization it could be 20% or 25. There's great variations. Depending on the pageant, you could do talent, or we have runway, or we have fun fashion. There's several different categories that make up you becoming queen, and those vary per pageant. Now, everyone knows the mainstream ones, which are interview, evening gown, and swimsuit. I would say are what the world knows as most collective, and I would agree those that seems to be pretty common across the board. And then sometimes social media is judged, and then on stage question. Some pageants require it only if you make the top five. Others, you do it no matter
Wow.
what. So the best way to get into the bubble and understanding the world and the breakdown is really by just being a part of it or being stalking it, like hardcore stalking it. Because we do have pageant fans that have never competed before, but they're all up in the pageant business and like posting on the forums, and we have like predictions and all these things, and they research everybody like crazy. We call them crazy pageant
It's
fans.
kind of like a sports team, like sports players.
It is. I don't think we're as popular in that sense of sports crazy fans,
Not
but
yet.
yes, in some countries it is. Yeah. Well, America, it's very interesting. America is one of the least
Really?
fanatic.
Wow.
Yeah. We're also probably, I might get smacked for saying this, but I would say the least educated when it comes to pageantry as a culture.
Huh.
Other cultures, it is like the be all. India, Indonesia, Thailand, oh my gosh, the Philippines. My gosh, yes. They're all like this is our they treat you like you're a monarchy.
Wow.
Like a true mind, like yes, it's a big deal. And then you come to the US and they're like, you say if they see any sash, they go, "Oh my gosh, congratulations. I'm not getting married. This is not a bachelorette." Or they just say, "Oh my God, it's Miss America." No.
That is funny. Whenever I would wear my sash, I did get that a few times, and I'm like, no, like the words are
Right?
on here, but it's whatever. But there's a lot that goes into pageantry. I mean, you name some of the stuff that happens on stage, but tell us what goes on behind the scenes because it's a lot of work.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. So behind the scenes, I have to separate that in my brain. One is behind the scenes, what actually happens backstage, and then prep. So I think you mean
Let's talk
preparations.
both. Let's start with preparations, though. Yeah.
Okay. Preparation wise, it depends on the girl, how she wants to handle or tackle the pageant, but a lot of it has to do with like coaching. I'm not a good example of that. I actually didn't really have any formal training before entering pageantry or even during my journey. Now, I have done like a few sessions here and there um, earlier on in my pageant career with like an interview coach. And then I did have a walking coach at one point too, where I did like one or two sessions, which was great. But truthfully, you should be doing like weekly sessions with your coaches. I just think that I had this bug in me, like this little thing. instinct on what to know and how to do it. So a lot of it was training. Like I would sit by myself and go through like interview questions, anything that could be asked to me, whether it was political, educational, my platform, relevancy, current events. I would just go through everything. I would watch other pageant interviews that were recorded from different pageant systems. I would get advice from other girls who had competed. I would really, YouTube was my best friend and would research different routines, which ones were winning at the time, which ones were not doing as well in that sense. So it's really, yeah, behind the scenes, you're coaching, you are educating yourself. You're also really pouring yourself into your platform or your purpose for competing. And then outside of that, sometimes it can be community service on top of that. And then in the last few years, really social media has been a big factor as well. If you need to, while you're preparing for the pageant, make sure you're sharing that preparation and your goals with social media, which is promoting the pageant. So, yeah, there's a lot of prep. Sometimes it gets stressful.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Gets a little overwhelming because you have paperwork. We have resumes we turn in. Sometimes we have additional paperwork. I'll use this last pageant as an example. When I competed at United USA, we had all of that paperwork. Then we have, well, I had to prepare for onstage question, interview, uh, evening gown. What am I doing? Social media. We had social media challenges. And then we also had a platform video that we had to put together. So it's like a 1 minute speech explaining your legacy and why you're doing, like why you want to be in pageantry and why what you're doing is important and how you're going to implement that as the national queen. So that takes a lot of work too, putting all those things together. And then you have wardrobe. That's the one of the biggest parts. I forgot to styling and wardrobe. Girl, you got to get your teeth whitened. You got to get your spray tans. You have to make sure your hair is good. Get all the extensions that you need. Book hair and makeup artists for while you're at the pageant. I completely forgot about that. Yeah. So there is a lot of time and money that goes into each pageant, no matter how big or
No,
small.
yeah, and that was something I really didn't know about before because I mean, when you watch a pageant, you just see like them on stage and they look perfect. But oh my gosh, just in the little tiny pageant I did, I had to get a spray tan, nails done, lashes,
Yes.
hair. I was like, oh my gosh, and thank goodness I did my own hair and makeup. But like, there's a lot,
Oh my
there's a
goodness.
lot that goes into it.
There is a lot.
And
Yeah.
one thing I kind of struggled with, and this kind of goes back to like the social media part, I was kind of scared to post something if I didn't think it was perfect. My perfectionism just kind of took over.
Mm.
And I did want to talk to you about this today. Have you ever experienced anything like that? Because you're kind of seen as this like perfect image.
Girl, you just I could echo what you just said. I actually think transparency, I suck at social media. I tell my clients that. I tell anyone who's close to me or has a conversation with me, I feel like I could be so much better at social media. One of the things being, I have so many photos and videos and resources to post. And I don't think the world has seen even a quarter, I would say even like an eighth of all the content from everything I've done, um, which should be shared. But I also sometimes feel like I'm too busy living in the moment to post all of those items. And some people could disagree with me, but I'm really somebody who likes to be present. So when I'm at events, my impact is when I'm talking to the people I'm talking to and mentoring rather than making it so social media can see that I did something that I said I was going to do. Now, again, I think it's important that we post and that you're staying up on it. Like last night, I was like, crap, I need to do a social media post. It's been too long. So I have some growth to do in that area. And then again, I'm very similar to what you were saying. I will go back and say, was this the right caption for this? That's really where I get tripped up. And at some point, you just have to say, I don't care. And I think Luciera, who's a runway coach, she used to be the runway coach for Miss Universe. She's a famous model. She talks about this, and when I met her in the Bahamas, she said the exact same thing. She goes, "You just have to post, even if you think it's crap. Post, get that algorithm up, post every couple days because you'd be shocked what actually draws attention on social media is not the perfect sometimes, even though social media has that reputation. It is not what you think it is that sometimes actually boosts
No, that
everything
is
up."
so true. And like everything is cringe when you think about it. So if you think it's cringe, post it anyway. But that was one thing I really couldn't get
Agree.
over during the pageant. And if you look on my Instagram, you can see I only posted maybe 3 times the year I was in the pageant, just because I didn't want to post the wrong thing or whatever. So yeah, I did want to talk to you about that because you're seen as this like perfect
Yeah,
queen. And does that ever get hard?
all the time. Yeah, because I'm definitely not perfect. Like I'm flawed. Like I only pick the best photo. I'm not, I'm not gonna pick the one. I actually have a whole roll, and I really should share it sometime because I think it's funny. I think it's funny. But because I'm an animated person, my in-between shots are hilarious of things. Whether it is when my husband's just taking a photo while we're trying to do stuff and then he like clicks it. I have some really funny ones. Or again, in professional shoots, when I think we're off, I have awful looks on my face, or like again like completely dramatic looks, and then I just laugh at myself and I'm like, if people only knew this is really what's happening behind this beautiful photo is me falling on my face pretty much the whole time. Yeah, so it happens. I'm not perfect in any way, shape, or form. I think we talk about our successes more than we talk about our failures, and I'm guilty of that as well. I also think that the people who know me best, because my relationship isn't with social media. My relationship is with my husband and my family and my closest friends. In that sense, they know exactly who I am. They know where I'm struggling, where I'm weak at. Um, I will say, I think one of the most vulnerable moments I had to be on social media is when Jeff
Mm.
died. If you remember Jeff Gastronaut, who was pretty much my dad growing up. That one was really hard for me. That was the first time I had to let people understand that I was feeling pain. Um, Same thing when my mom was on life support at the exact same time of that all happening. It was one of the most painful parts of my adult experience and going through that. And it took me a long time to understand my grieving process because myself as an individual, I'm very type A and like, let's get this done. So when all those things were happening, my mind went straight to this has to be done, this has to be done to take care of other people. As I had younger siblings, a minor still, my youngest sibling was still a minor at the time. And so my grieving actually didn't start for like 2 to 3 months
Mm.
afterwards. And understanding that process and finally letting my mind catch up with the busyness of what those traumatic events, had caused. So I tried to share a little bit with that with social media just so they could see what was going on in that world. And obviously, I've talked about my childhood too. But other than that, yeah, like I said, the people who know me best know exactly where I'm at in life, and social media can have the public figure.
Yeah, but wow, that I forgot that all happened at the same time.
It was a fun
Yeah,
time.
no, I
Well, yeah, because we just came back from
yeah,
Ireland.
which
Yeah.
that's a whole nother story we'll get to. But yeah, it I kind of had a hard year last year. Not to that extent, but I just had like
Mhm.
a lot thrown at me and I choose a word for the year every year and I chose do you we're so
Same.
much alike. Like this is episode I keep like,
Yeah.
wow, I do that too. I like that too. But I chose buoyancy, which yeah,
Ooh.
all my friends were like, what does that even mean? But it means just staying afloat or rising above the challenges. And boy, was that the perfect word for last year. I like every time I felt like I knew what I was doing, something would happen and I just felt like I was going back down. So thank God this year the word is celebrate, which I feel like, it's not like celebrate like party every day, but celebrating like the little parts of life.
Yeah.
Like that's the way I want to put into it. And I have a whole nother episode on that. But
Oh, I
yeah,
love
like
that.
it's just those hard times, they do make you stronger, but it is so hard being in the middle of it and just feeling like you can't do anything.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
what is your
agree.
word for the year?
Mine is trust.
I love it. Why?
Yeah. So whether it's trusting in myself or I'm huge into my faith too, or trusting God with the unseen, is sometimes you might be the same way, but sometimes I feel like when things do start going really well, I'm hit. That also means I'm about to be hit really hard with a challenge because I personally have asked in my life and in my meditation and devotions, I've asked to be challenged. I want to grow, and I think the only way that you can grow as a person is to have challenges, and that's a lot when you're asking God to challenge you. It's like painful. Like there's like this little feeling in my gut I have right now. I'm like, oh, every time I ask it, I know what I'm getting myself into because it's probably gonna hurt.
No, it's like be
But
careful what you pray for.
right,
Like
it's
you may pray to be like, I wish I like had more courage or more discipline. Like God will put you there. You might just not like how he gets you there.
yes, exactly. And so when you're going through those processes of refinement, you kind of touch on it. Just when you think you've hit one thing, something else gets brought up and a new challenge that's bigger, and you feel like you've taken 5 steps back. But really, in reality, you're 50 feet or 50 feet further than where you were 5 years ago. But because you want to become a better person, you want to grow yourself, God's going to keep giving you those things so that you can conquer them. So one of the things that's why this year's was trust, because last year was thankfulness, is being thankful during some pretty difficult times that were happening, in my life, was how to thank him in the times when I didn't understand or I didn't really feel like being
Hmm.
thankful. That's reality. And so, yeah, so this year's is just trust, blind trust, especially since I am type A and I like to have my fingers in the pot. And so stepping back and being like, where do you want me?
Yeah.
Where do you want
Yeah,
me?
no, I love that. That's so cool that you do the same thing because I've only met like a couple other
I
people that do
know.
that. So that's really cool. But I also, this is kind of like the whole theme of the podcast, that's just life. Life goes up and down, and you're hit with battles. And I don't know about you, but some of the hardest stuff I've been through made me better and the person who I am today. Like, I wouldn't not go through those challenges because they've made me stronger. And the last podcast I did, it was with my friend I met on my job. He's a magnet fisherman. And if you haven't heard that episode, go check it out because he's incredible. But I mentioned the
That's cool.
quote, turn your mess into a message.
I
Yeah,
love
because
that
like, we are all a mess at times, but how can you
for sure.
overcome that mess and help other people? Yeah,
That's it. I like that because your mess really is, once you've gotten through it, is really the purpose to help
yeah,
other people,
I love it.
to be a light at that time too, because it's hard. And sometimes, like, I know it's like not to have someone else to look up to. And my whole goal, like, even with pageantry, and I did talk about it in a social media post once, was my whole purpose for getting into pageantry to start with, that really was, hey, God, if you're going to make me do this, because it kept being called, I have to have a reason. I've had to have like a purpose into it. So and that's why my platform is so important to me, of safe homes. And I actually, a lot of people don't know this. There was a time, I want to say maybe 2019, that I was ready to be done. The pageant world is not perfect. At that time, I had gotten a couple titles, had my experiences, good and bad. But there was a point where I said, I don't think I can do this anymore. I think it's time for me to step away and retire. And I had made the announcement on social media that I was considering stepping away. I got flooded with Instagram messages from children in foster care that asked me not to quit because they said that I needed to keep being on the stage because each time they saw me on stage, it gave them hope to see that kids like us could be places like that. And it was an immediate reminder that I'm not doing this for me. I'm not doing this. Obviously, you become better people through pageantry, you really do, self-growth. But there's other people who are looking at me, win or lose, just being a representation on that stage is giving light to other people. So I'll get knocked down as many times as I have to if that means that other people are being positively affected by me walking out on that stage. And that's the reason why I
And I
stayed in
think
it.
that's why you're so successful too. You have that strong purpose and you're here for a reason. I believe like we're all in our spot in our life for a reason. And just going off that, my podcast, I did it for a class and I just didn't know if I wanted to continue it, but it was just like one episode I posted, and the response I got from it was absolutely incredible. I tore both my ACLs and I talked
Mm.
about it. I was very vulnerable. And I had people reach out from like all over. I had one person from India reach out, and I'm like this is amazing. I can get to talk about my life and like help others all around the world. And I mean, to this day, I think it's reached like 36 countries and all over the United States. So like it is just amazing to see how the world works and how you actually can impact people.
I agree.
Yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
awesome. And I think this is a perfect transition into safe homes. I mean, you
Mm.
do, this is your nonprofit. How did this come about?
I won't go into a horrible amount of detail, but I did grow up in what I would call an abusive home. I actually was split between kind of two homes, my grandmother's home and my parental home at the time. And there were just some dark things that were happening on both sides. So, I experienced physical, sexual, verbal, mental abuse, between both of the homes together. And at one point, even got sent to a residential treatment center in Lafayette because they didn't know exactly what to do with me based off of there were some suspicions from the church that something was going on, but in Jasper County at the time, we really didn't have DCS. We really didn't have people who were checking in. We also didn't talk about that kind of stuff back then or, in that community. And even though everyone's tight knit, there were suspicions, but no one ever acted on something's just not right here. And so I think the solution at the time, I can't speak for them because I don't know all the motivation into that, was let's put her somewhere where we can separate them because something's wrong, whether it's me or them, And so they were like, let's separate them. And in that time, I was assigned a counselor, and it took me a couple sessions to really open up. And this was when I was 16, I think, at that time. And when I finally did start to open up about what was really happening, my counselor physically cried. And I remember thinking to myself, why is she crying right now? Because when I was in my home, like crying was a sign of weakness. You were called mentally unstable. So I never learned, like growing up, like, yeah, I cried, but I was always taught that that wasn't something you should do. And through talking to her, I learned she was the first one, I guess, to say validating me that she was like, that's not normal. And to be quite honest, I didn't know it wasn't normal at the time. I knew some things were not right and I didn't like them, but I did not know that all families didn't function the way my family had functioned. And that was an eye opener. I didn't know that parents don't talk to their children like that. At that stage in life, I'd even come to accept if this is what love is, I want absolutely nothing to do with it. I don't want to be married. I don't want to have children. I don't want that in my life because all I feel is pain. And so if that's what this is, because that's what I was told it was, I didn't want anything to do with it. And again, I did not react well too. Like coming from all of that abuse, I acted out too growing up. Now, I didn't do drug, sex, or anything like that. But I did try to find safety in like other ways, I guess to say. So I actually self-harm was one of my biggest ones for sure. And if people really do look closely, there are still scars on my arm. Yeah, from that time in my life. And again, that's a whole nother aspect of my story that was a dark time of my life. I even contemplated taking my own life as a teenager due to that experience. Thankfully, I thankfully I didn't, and that was interfered in. But I have the journals and everything still because someday I hope to write a book about that whole childhood experience and what was happening from my perspective. So pretty much when I came back home, I decided that I put myself through school. So I practically was forced to leave, not forced to leave, but there was an incident that happened where I had to leave at 18. I chose to leave, and the other family that I consider my adopted family, even though they never officially adopted me, became my safe place. And they were like, we're not letting you back there. Now that you're 18, you're coming here. And that's exactly what I did. But I did go put myself through college and lived out in my car during the summers the best I could just to avoid going home at that point. And I didn't mind it. Sleep in your car is good for you, builds character. And so I paid for college by myself. And once I graduated, I knew I wanted to help other kiddos who were like me. That was my whole purpose for going to school. I saw my education as a way out of where I came from. That's why I said no to pageantry when it was presented to me, because my goal is I have to get my education so I can build a better life. And I'm really proud that I did. So once I graduated school, I went to becoming a social worker, which is exactly I wanted to help kiddos in the foster care or even child placements that were still living with their parents that they were trying to keep from going into foster care. Did that for several years, and I absolutely loved slash hated it just from the stories and experiences. And but one of the fun things that came out of it is even my flower girl, my wedding, is actually one of the first kiddos I helped get
Oh
adopted
my gosh.
in the
Aw.
system. Yeah, so her family still keeps in contact. The judge made sure that after the process was done, that as her social worker, I could still stay a part of her life because you're really not, you can't, but because it was written to the adoption, we're allowed to keep contact, which I really, really love. So they keep me updated on how she's doing and everything, and she was allowed to be my flower girl. But that kind of where Safe Homes really originated is Indiana is one of the worst states for child welfare laws. And I thought something needed to be done about it. So we have SAFE stands for stability, allocation, family, and education. And I thought those were the greatest needs for our state at the time. And then further going, I realized it was something that was across the nation. Um, and now internationally, these are things that also apply to other cultures and countries, and which is how we've been able to expand that far is stability. The number one thing a kiddo needs is stability and consistency, whether it's from their actual family or people in their lives. They do need consistency. Allocation of resources is also huge. Funding for counseling for the kiddos through the state, making sure that again, resources like bedding, clothing, things like that for the kiddos that are in foster care, or again, relative placements. Um, well, yeah, just and then also for kiddos who are transitioning out of foster care into the main life. There's an abundance of needs that are happening, and then um, family. I can spell safe AF family. Understanding what a family is, whether we're creating a new one or we're reestablishing one that's already been, that's also extremely vital. And then the next part is education. So educating teachers and family members to be looking out for these signs, but also at the same time understanding, educating them about what's really happening to our kiddos. I mean, I talk about this all the time, but 1 billion children are abused under the age of 17 each year. That's over half of the world's population of children. So for me, this is a world pandemic. Like that is a global initiative that definitely needs addressed. So it doesn't matter where you're from. This is something that's affecting everyone, and our kiddos are our future. So if we're not investing in them, making sure that they're okay, that's also meaning that our future may not be okay either.
That just makes me want to cry. Like that's just insane. But yeah, wow. Just you bringing attention to this is just incredible. How can people help? How can people get involved?
Yeah, so one of the best ways to work, I have personally partnered with Hands of Hope. It's stationed here in Indiana, but they do work in other states as well. It's more like donating gift cards or bedding, and again, clothing. They have a list of needs on their site. Yeah, so Hands of Hope, like I said, on their website, which is just handsofhope.org, you can donate items such as like bedding, um, or even gift cards for like foster parents or relative placements. So to give them a break, to provide food for the kiddos, things like that. So there's a lot of things that are happening, drives, fundraisers. Again, allocation of resources is huge. This is one of the things that they specifically do. While at the same time providing encouragement to foster parents. So as Mrs. United USA, they're my other organization that I've wanted to partner with and bring light to what they're doing because they're making such a big impact across the Midwest. Another thing that people can do at my website, MissJessicaMarie.com, there's a Safe Homes page. If people want to donate or get in contact with me, they can donate money because one of the things we're working on is providing scholarships for children who want to go to school from foster care and need that extra leg up. We want to provide small scholarships so that they're able to do so. I also have been working on doing the same thing here in pageantry of women who don't have the same resources or have come from similar backgrounds that do want to participate in pageants, that there's a fund that they have the opportunity to do that because pageantry does promote education specifically, and also life skills, those interview skills that'll help them get jobs, stage presence, confidence, which will help them in their future and in their careers. So I think that's really
Yeah.
important.
All right, let's go back to just some of the experiences you've gotten through pageants. I know we kind of gave a little tease earlier about Ireland. So I
Oh yeah,
visited Ireland back in 2022. 20 yeah, 22.
it was
Yeah,
22. Yeah.
2022. Funny story. I was originally supposed to go in 2020, but we all know what happened.
Okay.
I was literally on the way to the airport and my flight got canceled. Like it was crazy. But I'm so glad
Oh
I got
yeah.
to go finally in 2022 and we were there during the same time.
Yes, and we were probably at the
Yeah.
same places. I think we like matched on Instagram. Like, wait, you were at the cliffs? I was just at the cliffs.
Yeah, and I think you were in the parade and I was at the parade. Like we just kept like missing each other by like
I
it was so
know.
funny.
Milliseconds, I
Yeah,
feel
like
like.
that's crazy. What a small world. But tell us all about being Mrs. Ireland Supranational. Is that right?
So is Miss Ireland for Supranational, which is a grand slam. It's one of the top rated pageants in the world in 2021. And then I was Mrs. Ireland,
Okay,
2023.
tell us
Yeah.
how that happened.
Yeah, so I am over 50% Irish, which is a requirement for competing. So again, being 50% one nationality is kind of hard to find now. And so that is an automatic, you can compete for that pageant. Now, depending on the pageant, some have like living restrictions. At that time, they did not because it was 2020. And Ireland was on lockdown. It was one of the first countries and one of the countries that actually shut down for the longest amount of time to tourism. So they were worried that if they had crowned somebody in Ireland, living in Ireland at the time, that they wouldn't have the right resources or even be able to get to the international pageant,
Wow.
which that was how it was for a lot of different countries. So then they started looking for women who were in other cultures because 80% of Irishmen, native Irishmen, do not live in Ireland. Because it's rural, we end up leaving or going somewhere else, which is, our family left at one point as well for the same reasonings. And a lot of the girls, despite the fact that we're uneducated here in the US when it comes to pageantry as a whole culture, we have more resources for pageantry than per se Ireland did at the time. So they really did prefer and do prefer that their title holder lives in the US, having strong roots in Irish culture, understanding the language. At the same time, for me, I modeled for back then a fitness company based out of Ireland as well. It was in Dublin. And then yeah, like I said, family history. So we had to prove all of that kind of stuff. So when you are a national queen or going for that national title, you have to provide all that information. So pretty much long story short, 2020 was a heck of a year. I'm gonna put it this way. In 2019, I was Miss US International for Indiana, which is another Grand Slam. And I made the top 10 nationally. Woohoo, cool. Came home, actually competed in another pageant, Miss World, and did really well there. Loved that. For Indiana. And then I was supposed to be giving down my Miss Indiana International crown, US International crown, in the spring of 2020. Well, no pageants could take place during that time because that's exactly when we started going into lockdown was the spring for here in the US. And so they couldn't hold a pageant. Well, some of the other title holders for the organization had already been crowned. Me, several of the other ones had not. So at the time, they gave us the option of you guys already have the crown. Rather than giving it up, would you like to come back and compete again for the title? And I was like, sure. It's 3 weeks away. It was like maybe 4 weeks away. It was like a month. It was not very long. And I'm like, okay, well, I really loved the Miss US International organization. I felt at the time, out of all the pageants, this one fit me very much so. I loved it. And rumor was that year, we'll put it as rumor is, because there are a lot of things that happen in the pageant world, that the US was looking for a blonde, blue-eyed girl. And reason being is because Japan, the individuals who own this pageant internationally, were asking the US to send um, this girl this year. And so, of course, all the state directors are like, blonde, let's send blondes. Um, and that's what they did. So that's probably one of the reasons, actually, very much one of the reasons why they asked me to come back. I was ready. Like I was on it. I was training like crazy. My wardrobe was on point. Everything was good. So much so my best friend was in the audience and she physically cried. Like I still have the video of her filming me, and she would not do that, but she physically cried watching me on the stage. The pageant forums had me doing really well, projection wise. They had me doing really well. Everyone was like, "This is it. Like you're gonna take this." And I felt it too. Like there's certain times in your spirit you feel it, and that was it. I'm like, I have done everything right. My interview was great. I feel this. My name was not called. Yeah. And this is a fun little teaching moment. When I walked off the stage, I went back to the back. So all the girls who didn't make it to the top are not on stage at the time, they're in the back. When I walked off stage, the girls in the back literally said, why are you back here?" And I was like, I didn't win. And I didn't. And so they all start hugging me. They're like, what? And like they were asking a bunch of questions. Now, again, there were lots of really good competitors. I'm not saying anything about that. However, there was projections and I knew in my heart where I had been and what I was doing. That was a moment where I had to walk out the door because I was starting to get overwhelmed. And my motto is I'm going to thank God when I win, I'm going to thank God when I lose. And that one was extremely painful for me. So I walked out the door and started crying. And I said it. I was like, God, I told you I was going to praise you if I won. And so I have to praise you when I'm losing. And I'm losing right now. And I'm losing in more ways than one. And because I really, really wanted this one. And I thought I had it. So then you collect yourself and you go back out and you do the whole thing, which was very much a big learning experience for me. However, at that time, my director said, I want you to give up the crown because you only have a year left of competing before you get married in the Miss division. Go do something else. Because she even felt bad for me at the time. And again, I won't go into disclosure out of respect for the directors of that organization. But we later found out that I would have never been able to compete anyways because I was too old. And so I wouldn't have been able to technically win. And score wise, I don't know if I would have anyways. So I don't know. So 3 weeks later, I decided to go to Miss Global USA, completely different style of pageant. Yes, 3 weeks. Um, and ended up placing first runner up, which was awesome. I was thrilled because I really didn't know much about this pageant until 3 weeks before that, but I knew it was a Grand Slam too. I signed up last minute. The girl who won had been trying for years and 110% deserved it. I did not deserve it. I was going there to prove a point that I was good and I got gypped. I just wanted to feel confidence in myself. I wasn't doing it for anybody but myself. She was there because she wanted to represent and had put her heart and soul into it. And so I was so proud of her for winning, supported her through her entire journey. Next thing I know, ring to ring ring, the Miss Ireland director was calling me. And I didn't understand why because I was only interested like a year ago. And so pretty much they talked to me and they said they explained the situation that they knew my success here in the US with pageantry, they knew my ancestry and all this stuff, and asked me to submit all of my documentations. And so I did, and they decided to crown me uh, Miss Ireland for that year. And then I went to live in Poland for a month and compete at the international pageant, which funny enough, I was out of all those countries, 80 some countries, I was in the top, what, five for super influencers, which is social media challenges while we're there. I don't know how, but somehow I got it. So, woo, while we were there. And then I came home and got married, what, 3 months later, 2 months later?
Wow.
So it was a cool experience, but here's the cool part. If in my brain I had won the pageant that I had wanted to win, I put my heart and soul into Miss US International, I would have never gone to the pageant again because of the age thing. But the girl who won, like I feel so, I love her to pieces, and I feel so bad this never happened for her. She didn't get to go to the pageant because they postponed for 2 years internationally due to the location. She never got to go to the international pageant. And my goal was always to go internationally, to win my country and to go internationally. So she never went. Fast forward 3 weeks later when I went to Miss Global. Even though I was this close to taking that title, the individual who won never went to represent the USA at the international pageant because hers also got postponed so long.
Wow, that's awful.
Ring, ring, ring. So right, no, it's so awful for them. But then I think about how God was working behind the scenes. If I thought I knew what I wanted, and He was saying, no, 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 no. If you get this, it deters so many
Yeah.
other things that I have for you. So, because I would have never been allowed to be Miss Ireland, I would have never gone internationally, which would have never led to me being Mrs. Ireland, like all these other opportunities and meeting some of my best friends in the world. So, I still got to compete internationally as a Miss at a grandstand, being on television on like 200 different like all these countries in the world and represent my heritage and my ancestral country on that stage. So it was everything works out for a reason. So even though it was very painful at the time, now I look back and like, wow,
Yeah, that's amazing.
you did not know what you
Yeah,
wanted.
God's timing, not ours, right? Yeah,
Right?
wow. That is so
Right?
cool. I
Yeah.
love those like life moments where everything just kind of clicks and you're like, "Oh, that's what you're working on, God. I gotcha."
That's what you you're sneak. But you gotta get like he has the whole film, like he has the beginning and end of your movie, and I'm only at
Yeah.
one point in my movie, and I can't see the next scenes, and he can. So we always have to remember
And
that.
people know I say this all the time, but I say God's a comedian. Like he always has like the funny way of doing it. I'm like, "Really? Like that is hilarious." Well,
Funny God.
but wow, your story is just incredible and I think we could probably talk for another hour, but I'm not going to make people
Probably.
listen too long. But my last question, I just want to know what's next.
Ooh, okay. So what's next? I technically give up my Mrs. United USA crown in June at the national pageant. However, I don't go. I'll still represent the USA at the United Universe pageant um in 2026. So so I'll still get to represent the USA. But my job will be really to focus on that international pageant that I formally passed on the crown in June, but I'll still kind of reign as the 2024 title holder. So at that point, when it comes to pageantry, that's my goal, is to take home that international crown overall. Show that those small town girls can do it.
Yes.
And then next on the list from there, pretty much getting ready for the pageant season with all my little, what I call my pageant babies for my business. And then, yeah, let's see where this TV stuff takes me, because I'm, again, trusting and just going, okay, if this is what you want, God, let's do it. And to go. So right now, that's where we're at. We're also looking in the next, me and my husband, over the next maybe 5 years of adopting a kiddo, because that's always been our goal, is to, rather than having our own children, we would love to foster to adopt. So we're just, not rushing things, but in God's
God's
timing.
timing. I think that's like the whole,
But I have my
I love
goals.
that. I think that's the whole theme of the episode, you know? Trust God's timing. All
Yep.
right. Well, thank you so much again for coming on and just sharing your amazing journey. And I mean, I think you're a light for so many people. You have no idea. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
But yeah, thanks.
Thanks for giving me the
Absolutely.
opportunity.
Absolutely. And thanks for those who are coming in and listening and closing another chapter of Just Life. So stay tuned for more stories, more lessons, and more life.